You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, hello there, Christy. How are you doing? Oh my gosh, yeah. Nobody wants to hear about relatives going to jail. So I know you must be going through a lot right about now, I'd say. Yeah, and that's the thing with the state of Washington. We have all these juvenile detention centers, and we're filling them up not because we're putting people in there based on the crime they committed. We have a standardized sentencing. So if there's a certain crime committed at a certain age, they could wind up going to the detention center. Yeah, and that's the case with everything. People know the problem. They know how to fix it, but they're just not willing to put forth that extra step or work together, in a bipartisan group and try to come up with a viable solution. I agree with the idea that if a child commits a crime, the parent should be held responsible in certain cases, especially those where the parents buy a weapon and the child uses the weapon to commit a crime. When I was growing up, I had a stepdaughter who was that I gained control of in court, and I did the very best I could to give her a good education at home. I expected the schools to do a certain thing, not everything, and certainly not to go against my beliefs. And at that time in Tennessee, it was good. The schools did their part, parents did their part. And if she did something people liked, they would usually look to me and said, she's doing a very good job. We like the way she reacted to this, or we like the way she's helping folks or something, something that they liked. And I could easily take credit for that because she was under 18. And as she got older and became an adult, she's responsible. My job is done. She walks out of the home, she goes into the big wide world, and if I didn't prepare her properly, bad things could happen. Now, that's not a 100% guarantee, because all of us have free will, and some of us, despite the best home life, the best educational opportunities, bad things do happen. But as a child, that's a whole different story. I really don't see the purpose of trying a child as an adult. Yes, it's a terrible crime, but there's a really deep reason for them to...
Can't help you with that.
There's a really deep reason for them to commit such a heinous crime. Something led to that. And it wasn't just because they wanted to, make millions and kill somebody, because a child usually doesn't have that
You have 60 seconds remaining.
level of intelligence to do something like that, like an adult did. A 40-year-old adult who plans robbing a bank, that's one thing. But a child that says, I'm going to go rob a bank, they're not going to do it the way an adult would. And their idea of success is greatly reduced. And so I really can't see the intelligence level as being there.
You have 30 seconds
so
remaining.
Try a child as an adult. Where's the intelligence? Why do we send them to school if we're already adults? So there's a lot that we need to talk about in that. So hopefully he will get a good sentencing. I doubt in the state, but I'll definitely keep an eye on it for you. Well, okay. Well, thanks for the call, and you have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank
Okay.
you for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello. Welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I want to discuss children and our role as parents on guiding them into adulthood. And I know growing up in Tennessee, we're taught that family is important. And that a lot of times, the small communities we lived in, all families worked together. It wasn't a matter of politics or religion or race, gender. It was a matter of we want to keep our neighborhoods safe. We want our children to have a better life than us. And since we have been through a lot of mistakes growing up, it's good to share the results of those mistakes. Not prove to our children that we're perfect, that we never make mistakes, and they shouldn't. But the fact that you can recover from a mistake, and that what people think of you, that's important when you're running for office. If you're in the political arena, what people think of you could determine whether or not you have a job. But if you're just growing up in your hometown, going to school, playing with your neighbors, what people think of you isn't that important. It's not something that's going to, or at least it's not something that should destroy your life. And our children got to understand that, let's use the goth thing. Let's say a child wants to be goth. And this could be a very young child, maybe 8 or 9. And just likes the idea of having dark hair and dark lipstick and dark clothing and listening to a certain genre of music. For me, if I have a daughter like that, it won't cause me to, let's say, to go out and get drunk and drink every day. I would do the best I can to encourage it. As long as she doesn't want to break the law, go ahead and do it. And if the school isn't supportive, she goes in there and they say, oh, this is not the dress code or something, that's a discussion you have to have with the school and with the child. And you'll have to, and it could be a learning process too, because I know I've run into people that didn't like the dress code, but there was a reason that they came up with that dress code, and so you have to talk to kids. And I know you like dressing this way, but there's a dress code to go to this school. You don't want to spoil kids. You don't want to lie to them. You don't want to treat them wrong. These children look up to you, and even though it doesn't sound like it at times, or look like it, or feel like it, they're really paying attention. And we don't partake in their private conversations with their peers, but if we were to eavesdrop, they could be saying they don't like the way the parents have a bedtime or curfew, or won't let them watch certain movies. And there could be some people that sympathize with that, but they're not really talking them down, criticizing them. Oh, your parents are terrible. Nothing like that. So there's a lot that we need to learn from the kids by watching them and listening to them when they're talking, and we can use that to our advantage to help them out. But having a child is an important choice, and most importantly, it's a decision that we make. So we sit, we plan, we choose the right path, and then we make a decision. And that's what I like to teach children when I run across them. There's a difference between a choice and a decision. Now, we make choices every day, and that could be what you're going to wear, what route you're going to take to get to your destination. If you're going to ride a bike, ride a bus, drive a car, walk, those are choices. And a child needs to know that making a choice, you can back out of it or you can continue on it. And it's something that's expected in life. Make this choice, but you have to give yourself several options. When you walk into a restaurant, do you want a salad? Do you want a hamburger? Do you want a vegetable vegan theme? And these are choices, and we need to have respect for that. Now, a decision is getting someone pregnant, having a child, getting married, buying a house. These are things that may affect your life and something that you'll most likely remember. You may not remember the exact date and time, but you'll remember buying a house, or you'll remember having a child. And so a decision doesn't necessarily come every day, but it is extremely important. And that's what we need to focus on. Choice is not so much, but a decision. When a child makes a decision, it could affect a lot of people. And one decision is committing a crime. And so education is paramount. I believe in gun ownership, but I also believe in education. When I fired my first weapon, I was in the military, and they highly educated me on that, and I feel very comfortable around them. I'm not a big fan of gun ownership, and I don't really want to own one, but I do like the sport of taking them out and shooting them at a firing range, and I like having the control of or being able to own one. And so I support the right to own a weapon. And but when when my stepdaughter moved in with me, I kept that a weapon that I had, and I was in law enforcement. I kept that locked up. So if somebody had broken into my home, it would have taken me a while to get to that weapon. But I put up protective measures and defensive tactics and stuff that I felt really comfortable that I didn't need to use one. But if I were to buy a weapon with a child in the house, I wouldn't keep it a secret, because when the child, or if the child, will say, finds it, there's a lot of curiosity goes on, and that's what children do. And so if you take away that curiosity, this is a weapon, this is what it sounds like, this is how you use it, this is what you keep it safe, and never use it in these situations, don't touch it, don't play with it, eventually that's going to get through to them, and that curiosity will go. Answer questions, do hands-on demonstrations. Children at a certain age, and parents have the right to decide that, can handle a weapon. And most of the big issues is just out of curiosity. Children are curious, and children get bored. So there's things that can lead to making these bad decisions. A bad choice is okay, but a bad decision we want to try to avoid. So if you're concerned about a child not following a rule, let's say don't climb up on the counter, and you walk into the kitchen and you see the child standing on the counter, that was a choice that child made. And you got to let them know that was not a very good choice. Disobeying the rules is not a good idea, and of course there should be some kind of punishment for that. And but that's up to a parent. Some parents just kind of shrug it off. But decisions, if a child decides to get a tattoo, or kill a family pet, or burn down the shed, that's something that requires quite a bit. And accidents are another thing, and that's something parents should be held responsible for. So if a child goes out and commits murder, we need somebody to go in and talk to this child, find out what was going on. You see, in the state of Washington, they'll lock people up for a certain period of time for the crime that they commit, and not really give them a chance to weigh the situation. And we need to change that law so that a severe crime gets locked up and a minor crime probably not any time behind bars. And that, I think, will help in educating, because that's our primary goal with children, is to educate them. Now, Marianne Atkins was convicted of murder, but she was 16 years old, and they made it look like she had planned to go rob this person. And you think about it, 16-year-olds don't have the experience and the training to commit a crime like a 30-year-old would. And so for a 16-year-old who has a habit of running away from home and is not very happy with her home life, why would she just go out to get money and then kill somebody? Now, when I got the rest of the story, it made sense to me. And there's attorneys that are working with her, and maybe we can get this 19-year sentence that she got reduced, because I think it was just ridiculous. And you can see her story on my YouTube channel. And what's neat is she's telling it, because she didn't get a chance to tell her story. And the main thing that got her in trouble is the judge just didn't believe her. And see, with court system, the judge has a lot of clout and can make the process easy or difficult or complicated to the point where certain evidence is allowed, not allowed. And so a judge could look at it and say, I don't think that evidence is relevant to this crime. I don't want to admit it. And with the judge that she got, he immediately considered her a liar. This is a little girl who's scared. She knew she killed the person. She didn't deny that. But the reason that she killed the person, for an adult that went to trial, wouldn't have gotten that big of a sentence. And I don't think the judge would have said, you're lying. And I think that was part of it too, because yeah, she was scared, and yeah, she said some things she shouldn't have. But then after she started realizing what was going on and relaxing, it was easier for her to get the truth. And so, and she was taking some bad advice, because she was very open-minded, and she was like a child. She was taking in a lot of stuff, and people were just giving her some bad advice. So that situation could have been handled a lot differently. And I hope we can learn from something like that. And so to build all these detention centers for a child that made a bad decision, it doesn't really help. Just think about it. If you have a teenager, and the teenager breaks a rule and gets grounded for a week, does that mean that this child is never going to commit that rule breaking offense again? Or if you lock that child in the room for a month or a year? But once people understand the decision that they're going to make and know the risks, and you can even run scenarios by children. What do you think would happen if you crawled through an open window and stole a box of jewelry? Some of you may not be surprised at the answer you would get. Some of you would be. But it's a learning experience. It's an opportunity. Let children talk to ex-cons. Listen to them at lectures. Let them maybe go to a jail. If you know somebody that's in a prison or a jail, maybe do the visitation. Walking in there, and I know a lot of the inmates tell me this, just going into the prison and the door locks behind you. That has an effect. And I think seeing this, not necessarily experiencing it, but seeing it, could help with the learning process. But children are students. They're 24-hour students. And we set examples by what we do. Those who are ex-cons that have kids and they're working and trying to get their life back in order, and the kid does something wrong. Maybe the school calls him up and this kid had beat up another kid. This is an opportunity for the ex-con to say, don't do what I did, or you don't want to end up in prison because this is what's going on. You need to change this. We need to work with you. And I think investing in counselors and big brothers, big sisters, peers, that's something that the school could help us with, rather than giving them the right to make decisions without the family being notified. A child that goes to school and there's a counselor there that's available, and of course they could take advantage of it, but there's some that if they go to school and talk to the teacher and say, I really need to talk to somebody, and a counselor is there to sit and talk, that could make a huge difference. And it will be a lot cheaper for us, and we don't have to build so many. So this opportunity in the state of Washington is a good one, because they need more juvenile detention centers. If the voters don't vote to fund it, they're going to have to find alternatives. And one of the ways is to change their sentencing policy or practices. And let judges, well, I guess they should already know this, but when a child comes before them, you have to look at that in a different way. You have to get some input from the counselors and the medical professionals. And even family members should be able to weigh in on it. And maybe, just maybe, on a serious crime, we should bring the parents in for some counseling. And instead of sitting them down and telling them what to do, it's more like, we've evaluated your child. This is what we found. What can we do to prevent it from happening again? And that process will have a longer, more promising effect than just locking a person up. So hopefully you'll be able to talk with your kids, your family members, your neighbors, and just maybe a group discussion at a picnic or something. Just to let the community know what's going on, let your family know what's going on, and then give you some more insight on what's going on out there. And we can prevent building more juvenile centers. And maybe prevent some terrible crimes from happening in the future. Well, thanks for tuning in. Go out and have yourself a marvelous day and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.